And welcome back to another episode of Life in Prison. My name's Zach, and for anyone that's new, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. The 21st of this month brings it to a year that I've been doing YouTube. So I only need about 200 more subscribers to hit this 1,000 subscriber mark. So if you could please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for the 21st. I can get these 1,000 subscribers. So make sure you hit that bell notification button so you'll be first informed when I upload. Once again, this is a prison channel. For all those of you returning, you already know, I greatly appreciate you guys, alright? So today we're going to be getting into transgender in prison. Stone Collective Supply Company in here. Caleb, big respect, bro. Fucking love you. If you haven't already done it, go ahead, check them out on Instagram at Stone Collective Supply Company. Nowadays, it's a little bit more common, I guess you could say, for an individual to do the process and operations for them to cross over from male to female or vice versa, opposed to what it used to be back in the day. I remember the first time that I had ever been incarcerated with a male that was going through the process, switching over. And it was a big thing at the jail because you have a male inmate that has breasts, okay? Gender reassignment, he had the procedure done up top, but not yet at the bottom. So therefore, he had to be on the male side. But since whenever you have an individual like this, right, it's not safe for them to be in general population because some people will really get taken advantage of. So most of the time in jails and stuff, a lot of these individuals will be in PC, protective custody, or they'll be in the hole away from everybody so that they can't get taken advantage of or pretty much prey upon. So at ERJ a couple years ago, I want to say it was like 2009, there's this dude, his real name was Justin, but he went by Justine. As I said, you know, he had breasts up, you know, pretty much. And I don't know if he ended up doing prison time, but I know he was back on felony pod on PC for a few months before, you know, I ended up getting shipped up and out. So I don't know what happened to him, and I never saw him in prisons. Cyrus. So I was going through some of my old documents and stuff, and I found a picture of an individual that I knew standing next to Cyrus. So, as I said before, inmates that are going through these type of reassignments, you know, it's all about money at the end of the day. If you're an inmate and you have cancer, you're battling cancer, you're not going to get the treatment that you need because it's going to be state funded. But whenever you have issues like this, you know, there's actually an article that I popped up once before for an inmate that was going through gender reassignment, a transgender inmate. Surgery-wise is technically cosmetic, but if it starts dealing with the psyche, you know, if these individuals really, you know, feel that, you know, I don't know if insurance would get involved if it's, you know, if they speak to the psychiatrist and it's affecting their brain so much or it's affecting their daily lives to the point where they have to get the reassignments done. You know, I don't know who would pay for that insurance wise, but like I said, you know, in jail, whenever Justine would walk them down the halls, people would hoot and holler. It's crazy because it was a dude, but you would see, because in jail, it goes felony pod, A pod, you know, and then E pod. You know, A is pre-sentenced, E pod is sentenced felons and federal inmates. So down these corridors, these pods are like across the halls from each other, but the windows are kind of like blocked. But you can still see people doing this. You know what I'm saying? Whenever people walking down the halls, that's all you see. People run to the doors to see if they see their homeboys go up and down the hall. So, you know, 12 o'clock comes, all you see is, I don't know who's coming down the hall. I can't see yet. Oh, it's that rap motherfucker on PC. Hey, yo, bitch. Justine's walking up and down the halls and you hear motherfuckers hooting and whistling. This is an all male wing. There's no females. So females are on the misdemeanor side, the B side, up at ERJ here at Martinsburg. Like, you know what I mean? Any of the females, they're going to be on B side. So there's no females coming up and down the hall unless they're workers or COs, right? So you see whistling, and then all you see is a bunch of dudes. So it's these motherfucking dudes, like, you know what I'm saying? People like this, though, like I said, whenever they're walked up and down the halls, they're going to have 2 COs with them. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to be wandering the halls by themselves in these jails. Now, that was the only time I'd ever seen a trans inmate in jail. That was years ago. Prison, though, as I said, there's a lot of individuals that have already went through the reassignments on the streets, you know what I'm saying? So, when I finally got to Mountain Olive, okay, these individuals that were in my cell next to each other. So, in prison, most people that have cellmates, they're with their own race. So, if you have a cell with 2 man cells, 3 men cells, 4 men cells, they're all going to be the same race. Now, for you to start mixing races, it has to be signed off, approved, not only by administration, but by the inmates also, okay? Because there's, I guess, a little paper trail that goes back. They have to protect themselves, right? So when I get to Mount Olive, there's a couple beside me, okay? On my left side, there on Stewart, right? So it's a black and white individual. So they're both in their 30s. So it was a black boy. He was a little bit older than me, but he was a black boy named AJ. He's from Baltimore. He's doing a life sentence for murder. Skinny, like I'd say 5'3", 5'4", maybe 120 pounds. Small little boy, right? His cellmate was also in his 30s, about 5'8", maybe 220, bigger dude. But he was white, like I said. So AJ, light-skinned boy, he liked to wear tight clothes and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? I got along with him. Like I said before, I don't care if you do whatever. As long as you're a real individual, I don't care. So I talk to everybody, right? So, dudes were fine. But there was plenty of times where, honestly, transgender inmates, they might be popular in some eyes, but honestly, there's a lot of people that are disgusted by it. And they'll throw out a lot of racial slurs, a lot of, different comments and stuff like that. There's certain things you don't say in prison, and even if, you're trans or whatever it may be, or even if you want to be a female at that, throwing the bitch word around here and there and a few other words, it insults people. And there's been plenty of times where there's been different sides where you've got the boyfriend of the girlfriend with all his homeboys. So now you've got a little situation with 10 inmates going to bat and fighting and stabbing each other all over this one female. Just like at Huttonsville, for instance, the whole Tommy Cartwright thing, when he ended up getting stabbed 17, 18 times by a few DMI members a couple years ago. Tommy used to hang out with a group of a few dropout gang members. So in prison, certain prisons, okay, whenever you end up throwing the flag in, or you end up dropping your flag, right? Dropping your flag is you pretty much walking away from the organization or gang, all right? So a lot of these individuals, either, some Crips, some Bloods, some DMI members, old DMI members, and some other people, once they decide to walk away, they'd get trashed, some stabbed, fucked up, you know what I'm saying? If you want to walk away. So there was this group of individuals that they were all either dropout people, gang dropouts, or just people that sucked wee-wee. And Tommy Cartwright was a part of this little crew. It was like 8 of them, but I'd say 4 of them were in there for murder, and they had been pushing knives. And pushing knives is a term saying that, they're with knife play. Tommy Cartwright, he's an older dude, tall, skinny. you know, he's not gonna fight you, he's gonna stab you. He's gonna try to cut your throat. That's exactly what he tried to do. Like I said, him and Chewie ended up getting into it. He ended up pulling the knife on Chewie. Well, fortunately enough for Chewie that he was able to take the thing and beat the fuck out of him. But Tommy and these dudes, you know, they were serious guys, you know what I'm saying? But they sucked wee-wee. And they got into a lot of fights because people would call them, you know, they'd say some real fucked up shit. But, you know, these guys weren't punks, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were punks, but they weren't punks. You know what I mean? So a lot of times you'd really see down in the chow hall a bunch of dudes with some tight-ass clothes or some tight-ass sweatpants or some tight-ass khakis doing this, fighting for their life. At Mount Olive, though, it's a little bit more common because you have people that are never going home. Huttonsville, you have, you know, it's more or less shorter timer people. It's not any of the lifers. So, you know, there's still a few that was running around. Like I said, you had Miley Cyrus. You know, you had Bubbles. Oh, Bubbles was another one. Oh my God. So, Bubbles, Miley Cyrus. You had Poop Dick. God damn. Yeah, I know, right? At Mount Olive, though, it was a little bit more open because, like I said, you got these dudes that are doing life in prison, so they don't give a fuck. Plus, up there, you can make clothes. You have access to crochet needles and yarn, thread, string. You can make a lot of things. People would make these little outfits. Let me rephrase this. People would make these little outfits for themselves. Do you get what I'm saying? And parade around the pods and stuff because they couldn't go outside wearing these things. You get what I'm saying? But once in a while you'd have some motherfucker that would get high, go in, grab his little fucking secret stash of lingerie in prison and come out and try to present himself. You get what I'm saying? Imagine you being in a pod of, you know, 100 inmates, dudes, full of dudes, and you look up and see a motherfucker, seeing a dude in a little thong that he made. You know what I'm saying? It might be a little pink thong or whatever. It happens, you know what I'm saying? Up there, it's more in prison. It's kind of things like you see it, but you just don't say anything. Like, you know what I'm saying? You see it, you keep it moving. You walk past the cell, you don't look in. You don't want to look in. You know what I'm saying? If it's open, you do not look in. Because you will probably see some shit you don't want to fucking see. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, Spaceman, aka Spacecakes, he used to booty pop the plunger. And then apparently, what from Chewie saying, he also used to use the corn on the cob husks. You know what I mean? Like, that's the type of stuff that I'm talking about in prison. You don't want to just randomly look in cells because there's a lot of weirdo shit that goes on. They're funny, honestly, you know, walking the compound, you know, sitting back at the end of the day, smoking a little schnape, some woo bobs, you know what I'm saying, on the yard, and watching these couples walk the yard. Because even though there was a bunch of couples and you kind of knew who the couples were from the other person, you know what I mean, you were not allowed to hold hands. Physical contact with another inmate was forbidden. Obviously, say even if you're not holding hands or grabbing butt or doing whatever, right? Say you're horseplaying, putting your buddy in a headlock or putting him in an arm bar or in a fucking tow bar. Doing stuff like that, you're going to get wrote up for horseplay. Most likely, they're going to take... If you're horseplaying and they see you horseplaying, they're going to take you to the hole. And the reason being is... they don't know if you're fighting or not. So with them just taking you to the hole, it's easier to taking you out and keeping you off the yard, opposed to actually doing an investigation saying, okay, were you horseplay instead of fighting, we'll let it be. No, it doesn't fucking matter. In magistrate court, in kangaroo court, they'll even say themselves, you know damn well there is absolutely no horseplaying at all. Because, like I said, the COs don't know if it's horseplay or if it's a real fight. So you can do neither, right? So if you're walking the yard and you're holding hands with your little boyfriend, you're going to go to the hole. Not only that, they're going to get you in for inappropriate relationships. That's like a class 1. So if you get caught fucking around, you're really going to go to the hole for a long time. And once administration knows that you are a couple, if you're on the same pod, they're going to end up separating you. And then if it's still an issue and you keep getting caught going places and doing things, they're going to separate you and move in prisons. If one of you has the time where you can leave to another prison, if your classification is low enough, right? So after administration figures out who's in these little relationships, they would throw on, like I said, in prison, there's only so much you can do. So people would, make up these things. There would be fashion shows. There would be best dressed. They would have wet t-shirt contests. They would have best couples. Do you get what I'm saying? Awards. There's a lot of things that people would do just to make their time go by. Because you got to think, to someone like, some people that have never heard of stuff like this, for people that are never going home, that are comfortable and accepting whatever lifestyle they need to be living, if they're never going home and they got a little girlfriend, they don't care who knows. Do you get what I'm saying? At the end of the day, they're going to live their life and they don't give a fuck what you, me, what anybody's got to say. Because if they're happy, that's all that matters at the end of the day. You get what I'm saying? I can only imagine, 10 years down the road from now, what the prison scene's going to look like, what the prison content's going to look like, and, the caliber of individuals that's coming out of prison, if the courses that they offer out there now, if, mental health, because you gotta think in prison, mental health is a big issue. A lot of people, deal with mental health, unfortunately, and some people don't get treated properly. Unfortunately, whenever your mind starts going and whenever it comes to mental health, it doesn't matter how physically strong you are, you can be the strongest person in the world. And the mind is a very, very weak thing. I've seen individuals literally lose their mind and not know who they are. They can't function properly on a daily basis. They can't eat properly, function properly. They'll soil themselves, start talking to themselves, start hallucinating, start hurting themselves physically because they just can't hold on anymore. And I wish that some of these prisons would offer a little bit more help on, the mental health on some of these inmates. Fortunately, with me being in solitary confinement, you have the availability of being across from somebody so you can talk and communicate. Some of these other facilities, their solitary confinement, you're alone by yourself without a TV, without an Xbox, without anyone else's contact from anyone else, right? For months and years and decades on end. What do you think is going to happen? It's sad because say you have a loved one, right, that might go into prison for 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, right? Go in there normal. They end up getting some trouble. Go back to the hole. Couple months. But if that person is not stable enough to be able to sit back there, deserted by themselves, in segregation, alone with only your own thoughts. Some people get lost in their own mind and now they come out of prison and they can't work. They have to go on disability because they cannot function as a regular human being. Some of the items, some of the prison commissary items we are also allowed to get female-wise is, fun fact, female deodorant actually smells better than the male's deodorant in prison. The powder stuff, so much better. For some reason you go order tampons on commissary. I do believe that people would use it for nosebleeds. I don't know. You could also buy bras on commissary. Also, as I said, some of these inmates, they had breastises, so they had to buy these bras. You could buy female underwear on commissary. Some people did. Think of granny panties, okay? It wasn't anything spectacular. It was pretty much some some wide, silky granny panties that looked like whitey tighties, but they weren't whitey tighties because they were granny panties. Clothing, you couldn't get any of the female clothing, actual clothes. But what people would do to make the clothes tighter, so what they would do is they would get a t-shirt, right? Say if you wanted to make everything tight, all right? Take out, because up there at Mount Olive, they had sewing machines and also threading needles and stitching stuff and a bunch of arts and crafts stuff and actual scissors on the yard. So they would take their clothes, take out the seams, cut out a little bit, and then make it super duper tight. So that they'd be walking around with some duper duper super duper extra schmedium stuffs. That's how they'd end up getting their clothes super tight. If they couldn't get a smaller size, then they just cut the seams out, cut the material, tighten it back up so that it would be form-fitting, more or less. Or, like I said, they would just pretty much make a dress and fucking wear it. Administration, as I said, they never prevented any of these inmates to express themselves the way that they felt that they could express themselves, as long as they didn't break the rules. Do you know what I'm saying? If you wanted to wear a dress, makeup wise, what some of them would do for makeup, they would use the M&Ms, water down the colored M&Ms. They would water down the Jolly Ranchers. They would use the fireballs as red for their eyes or for their lips, because fireballs are red. They would also use some of the arts and crafts stuff, the paints and stuff like that. They would water down some of the paints to get the blushes, or some of the dark colors if the individual was black, or if he was darker, to use some of the, they would use foundation, stuff like that. They would get some arts and crafts stuff, water some stuff down, dry it out so it'd make it like a chalk stuff, and then get a little bit of wet with lotion, and then now it's like a foundation. Some of these people would come up with ingenious ways to, make up their own makeup, like I said, for foundation, different colors and stuff. It's very, very ingenious. You gotta give it to them. You got people that are never getting out of prison. They want to live this lifestyle. They're definitely coming up with ways to accommodate that, the way they want to live more comfortably for themselves. You can't be mad at them. Some prisons do separate the individuals that have any type of disfigurement to their body or any type of change. Some prisons, they do not allow any of the inmates to intermingle or intertwine, just because some of them can really get hurt. There really are disgusting predators out there that even if you're willing to give it up, they're gonna take it still. Do you get what I'm saying? So some prisons, they completely separate them, and they have them in their own little sections off in their own little world of lollipops and stuff. West Virginia, fuck no. You out there with the dirt and the grime, and you deal with it pretty much. Yeah, that's the thing people would ask, about what in jail and in prison, if there's a trans individual, which side would they go to? The male side or the female side? At the end of the day, it boils down to what parts do they have left at the bottom, okay? If he was born a male but now has had the operation where it's gone, and now has, a vagina, then he would go to the female side. That's pretty much with trans how they decipher them out. It doesn't matter if in your mind you identify as this, whatever part that you have, that's the section that you're going with. These parts are going to match. Do you get what I'm saying? Bottom half with bottom half. You know what I mean? Just so that there's no that. You know what I'm saying? Because if you got the same bottom halves, you can't, you know what I mean? But there's going to be none of that, all right? more people are getting these operations opposed to, earlier in life, because these operations that have, cosmetic work, it's not cheap. So, 20 years ago, there wasn't as many people. Nowadays, you're seeing a lot of these pictures and these videos and stuff of, more people coming out in the works. And like I said before, there was actually a gay prison gang, GBG, gay boy gangsters. They're a real thing. People didn't really believe me. Like I said, I'm not sure if they're all, just homosexual individuals, or if it's also trans or a mix of both. But as I said, that's not in all prisons either. I've never seen any GBG or gay boy gangsters, in West Virginia. They are branching out, as I've seen on the on the show. Those dudes were going in. That's a booty bandit at a whole new level. To get down, you gotta suck wee. You know what I'm saying? And you ride hard for the gang. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know a lot of people have certain things to say and don't like the way certain people live their lives, or, you know what I'm saying? It all boils down to this. However you live your life that makes you happy and that you're comfortable, that's all that should matter. Anybody else's opinion shouldn't matter, because you only have one life. As long as you're happy, who gives a fuck? So, it's weird, but you would think even with COVID, whenever these inmates catch COVID and, are in respirators or dying and stuff like that, they're not really getting the treatment they need. But if an inmate wanted to go ahead and have I guess gender reassignment operation, it's more on the table nowadays, and prison's always going to be changing. It's forever going to be changing. There's certain individuals that they will not be seen associating or talking to at all. Anybody that might swing that way, that's completely up to them. As I said, I talk to everybody and anybody. Sometimes some of these dudes that might be running around, even if they're not affiliated, they might have knowledge of something that may be beneficial to you, or they may have something that might be beneficial to you, or maybe they'll get their hands on. Like I said, I always say, everything is information, knowledge. Take it in, access it, store it for later. Knowledge is first and foremost. The more you know, the more power you hold. Also, for these inmates that have breasts, okay, for in prison, they have bras where you can buy. If you're a male inmate and you have breasts, you are not allowed to expose them. Even though most other dudes have their shirts off in prison, on the weight yard and stuff. If you have breasts, you're not allowed to expose them. If you do, you will get sex acts. You will go straight to the hole, and they'll keep you back there, until you really learn your lesson. Stuff like that. They are not down with that. Like, what I want you to do, go ahead, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done it, and go ahead and hit that bell notification to be first informed, and hit that like button. If you like it, you love it, come back for more. As always, Stone Collective Supply Company is in here. Go ahead and check them on Instagram. As always, I send my utmost love, loyalty, to respect. I hope you guys have a good week. Keep y'all heads up. And for all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day, alright? I hope you guys had a good Mother's Day. Have a good one.